Why, hello there, everybody. How you doing today? It's me, again. Today, I want to encourage. I want to inspire. I want to motivate. I want to give hope. And I'm going to give you all of that. I'm going to do all of that by reminding everyone of what's going on. Reminding and showing everyone exactly what's going on in our great country today by using the Word of God. By using a well-known Bible passage in the Word of God. And that Bible passage is the account of David versus Goliath. And that's found in 1 Samuel chapter 17. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But here's some few facts that are not realized by most people. Most people think that the miracle of David versus Goliath was that, well, little David beat mighty Goliath. That wasn't a miracle. The miracle was that by the act of faith of one person, one teenager, inspired and moved and encouraged and uplifted and emboldened an entire nation to go rout the enemy. This is what I mean. Now, we all know how big and bad Goliath was. But did you know that Goliath was from Gath? And Gath was just 6 miles away from where they were fighting. Okay? Did you also know that the Philistines had more chariots than the Israelites had men? What that meant is, because in that day the Philistines had two men per chariot. One drove, the other guy did all the killing. That means with just the charioteers, the Philistines outnumbered the Israelites 2-1. Now, that's not including all of the other military people that were there. And the Philistines had a professional army. Their army were trained. They had equipment. They all had armor. They all had swords. They all had spears. They all had javelins. They all had shields, so on and so forth. The Israelites, no. The Israelites didn't have a standing army. The Israelites were a bunch of shepherds, were a bunch of farmers, were a bunch of craftsmen. In fact, Israel didn't even have a way of producing their own metal, their own material, their own weaponry, their own utensils. They had to go to Philistine to get them, even to get them sharpened. So what you had was a ragtag motley crew of a few versus a stone-cold army. Fully equipped, fully trained, fully seasoned army. So why then didn't the Philistines just ram over and trample the Israelites? Well, that's for another subject. But the fact is that they didn't. They chose to send out their champion. Now, mighty Goliath, like I said, lived 6 miles. He was from Gath. Okay. Now, David was coming back and forth over the course of the quote unquote battle, which was nothing was nothing more than the Israelites shaking and cowering in fear of the Philistine army. But it was David's job to bring his brothers food, because they had no supply lines. Their family was their supply line. Now, David lived in Bethlehem, and David had to travel 17 miles to get to his brothers to bring them food. And he did this so often that we see in verse 54 that David even had his own tent. Because it was a long trek, folks. That's not 17 miles on a smooth sidewalk, folks. That's 17 miles over a hill, over valleys, down in valleys. And of course you gotta put up with the wildlife as well. Okay? Now Goliath was coming out for 40 days. Twice a day. That's 80 times. It's not like Goliath came out that one day when David just happened to show up. No, God timed it right. Because you see, the Word of God says that Goliath came out in the morning and in the evening. And when we see in verse 20, it says that David got up early. So if you can keep up of a pace of about 3 miles an hour, which is pretty doggone good, over rough natural terrain, you can travel to 17 miles in about 5 hours, 5-6 hours. So, by the time David got there, he had already traveled on foot, not in a pick-em-up truck, not on a camel, on foot, to bring his brother's food. He had already traveled for 6 hours in the heat of the day, carrying food, having to be concerned and vigilant against lions and bears. So he's already kind of tired by the time he gets there. But when he gets there, what does he hear? He hears this Goliath, this uncircumcised Philistine, mocking the armies of Israel, mocking his God. And David says, hey, wait a minute. What in the world's going on here, folks? Why is this being allowed? Here's my next point. Any one of those Israelites could have done what David did. It's just that David was the only one who knew his God, who had relationship with his God, who had faith that his God would deliver him. So when David goes before Saul, because Saul says, hey man, we heard what was going on. David said, well, wait a minute, hey man, what does the person get that kills this dirtbag? What do I get? I get the king's daughter? Yeah, get me before the king. I want the king's daughter. I want to set my family free. Free of taxes, free of everything. Because that was part of the deal. He wanted the reward for being a servant of God. So when he goes before the king, Saul says, hey, man, son, you're just a lad. You're just a youth. And David says, no, I'm much more than a youth. Because I have killed. Not only have I killed, I went up to the lion and to the bear's mouth and snatched sheep out of their mouth, grabbed them by the beard, struck them, smote them over the head, and killed them. And if my God can protect me against a lion and a bear, surely he will protect me and deliver this Philistine, this uncircumcised Philistine that is mocking our God, into my hand. So Saul says, hey, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. And he says, you know what? Saul tries to get in on the action. And in verse 38, Saul tries to give him his armor. Now, folks, Saul wasn't doing this for David's sake. Saul was doing this for his sake. He wanted to attach himself to the victory. He wanted to lay claim to David's victory. Don't let anybody lay your claim. Don't let anybody lay claim to your victory. You don't need anybody's help. So David said, okay, king, I'll put the armor on. And David said, you know what? This ain't me, man. Sorry. Thanks, king, but no thanks. I'm going to take what I got. I'm going to use what I know. I'm going to use what I have. I'm going to use what I have proven. And we see that in verse 40. What did he take? His staff and his sling. Folks, everything you got, everything you need, you have. Everything you need, you have. So then we know the rest of the story. David went out. One sling, killed Goliath, knocked Goliath down, went out, used Goliath's own sword to kill him, to slay him. But now comes the miracle. In verse 51. And when the Philistines saw their champion dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until thou come unto the valley and to the gates of Ekron. Pay close attention. And the wounded of the Philistine fell down by the way of Shaaraim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. Translation, folks, they drove the bullies, the Philistines, all the way back. They beat their tail all the way back to the bully cities. And 53, and the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. Folks, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to get up and take a trip to Gath and to Ekron? Are you ready to follow your God and drive the Philistines from our country? You've got everything you need. So I encourage you, be like David. And then if you're not a David, then I encourage you to act on the faith and believe. When you see David rise up and kill Goliath, because that's what's going on right now, then rise up, shout, and chase the Philistines all the way back to the gates of Gath and Ekron. So I ask you one more time. Are you ready for a trip to Gath? Are you ready for a trip to Ekron? You've got everything you need. Just saying.